Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Germanator Gardens. And in the opening time-lapse you saw where we came over here and we redid this road, and I love the way this looks now. In fact, I see a couple tiny little details I missed putting some tiles there as well. Okay, well, impromptu change, but we put this road in, or we adjusted it, and I think it looks a lot better now. So I'm just going to put these tiles in here, and I wanted to extend the hedges a little bit as well. So one thing I did was I got rid of the hedges on the side of the road, partly because it's no longer a sidewalk, and partly because I wanted these white lines on the edge to be clearly visible. But I'm putting them in on the edges here, just so that way it kind of rounds out this corner, since this is a walkway and kind of a public access way. Okay, but yeah, we did these roads, and it just, in my opinion, looks so much better. And as I was working on this, and I just noticed this kind of looks iffy, but that's outside the park, so I'm not worried about that. But yeah, I turned it basically into a 4-lane road. I kept the hedges on either side. Initially I was going to do a 2-way entrance road, but I thought I'll do 4-way 2 directions, and then we can have entrance and exits and everything, like better traffic handling. But then I realized, wait a minute, this is a entrance and exit road. Like, there's 2 ways, but they're only going 1 way into these toll booths. So I added this exit here to the parking lot, so that way cars can come out here and come down and exit wherever they would go, and then I left this little exit over here. And I think that works just fine. Of course, I have to zoom in enough for the level of detail. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. And, of course, it's a semi-modular system, I guess like the Cedar Point Causeway. So in theory, when cars are exiting, they could have 3 lanes for exiting and 1 lane for driving into the park for employees or whatever, and vice versa. Maybe in the mornings they can have 3 lanes of inbound traffic and 1 lane of exiting traffic. But, that's just however you want to make it up in your head, I guess. But yeah, proud of how this turned out. Not much else I have to say on that. Oh, I also put in some accessible parking over here. Parking spaces, I should say. Just for a few rows close to the entrance. That way people who are using wheelchairs or, just need to be parked closer can access this a little easier. And of course, the next thing you saw me do was put in all of these, or redo all these roads like I said I wanted to do in the last episode. And what I realized when I was doing that, and I briefly mentioned last episode, maybe redoing the roller coaster, like the turnaround section, and spoiler alert, that's what we're going to do today, at least in this first clip. And I have a few reasons for that. For one, building this pathway out here, I realized this whole area, and I mentioned it, there's something that could be built here, and this turnaround kind of takes up a lot of space right in the middle and doesn't leave a lot of room for building anything else around it. We could, but it would just be kind of weird, and if we did like a hotel, for instance, then there wouldn't be, it would be noisy right next to it. Or if we wanted to do warehouse space, which is kind of what I'm thinking, again, you wouldn't have a lot of room for maneuvering vehicles and stuff. And warehouse space likes to have plenty of area around it. But regardless, the other reason I want to move this turnaround and readjust the roller coaster, I have a few reasons. For instance, I don't love the profile of the track all along here. I think this double up is a bit aggressive, so I know I want to change that. But, another example is... Oh, yes. So, we built out this midway in the last episode, and let's go into free look mode real quick. So if we come down here, and we're coming down our midway, the midway doesn't look bad, but there's not really any focal point other than the trees. In and of itself, that's not a bad thing. We're going to build out the park, and there's going to be something down at that end anyhow. But I realized having that turnaround at the other end could make a nice focal point, and if I go back into the normal camera, not isometric, it'll kind of just hug the edge of this midway and kind of enclose it and add a border, and I think that will be nice. So, without any more delay, let's get started working on this. We're going to close our coaster, we'll put it back into test mode here, and edit it. But the first thing I want to do before I do a turnaround, in fact, I know we're going to get rid of everything on this side, so let's just delete that all to begin with. But I want to reprofile the first set of hills. So let's come along here. And I have to think a little bit about how I want to do this. I think I'm going to get rid of everything up until the first camelback. And then we have to go through the process of waiting for a train to get up there and everything. But let's start coming up with track ideas. So I think what I want to try... I know I don't have enough speed to get up here. See, what I do like about the double ups, for instance, is that you get a little more height. Like the top of this hill, if we turn on our height indicator, 73 feet. The top of this one is 66 feet. So you do get a little more height, which means you have a little more room to play with on the drops. But yeah, we will figure this out. Okay, I'm going to turn off the height indicator because it's a little annoying to look at. It's a little abrasive on the... That's not the right word. Anyway. And one thing we can always do is just cut into the terrain a little bit and have a ditch. And I might do that. Because I want to come up again like this. But what I want to do for a double down is kind of just have it right at the peak here. And we can even... Let's bring this out one. And then come down. And let's see where that gets us. So right to the bottom of the ground. I don't like going too close to the ground because you can't really have supports underneath the ride. And I'd rather not have to do a ditch. We could also do this. But I don't really like having this weird, funky looking triple down either. So, the age-old struggle. We could do a double up like this. In fact, I think I kind of like that, but maybe let's do what we did before. Have a little straight section. Oh, perfect. Train's coming. I kind of like the way that flows a little better. It's not as harsh. And then that does give us a little more room to play with down here. Maybe let's try a bunny hill. Maybe. I'm not feeling it yet. I want the first half of the whole outward section of this layout to just be these big hills. We'll see how that works. And we got a train coming. Let's just speed up time a little bit. Oops. Alrighty. Can we make it over this hill? Ooh, I think we can, and that's about the least amount of speed I want to have going over that hill. But one other thing I think I want to try, is I don't think we need to have this whole little helix banked here. So let's just keep this flat. Oops. Let's just keep it flat, and it may need to be a helix. We may have put a helix in to give it enough speed to get through the layout. Let's just connect that, and we'll see how it handles. I don't know if we're on, we must be on, oh, we're not on low friction mode. Interesting. Let's try this again because I know it's going to stall. Let's try it again with low friction mode enabled and see if that makes a difference. And now I understand why I had that helix, just to give it an extra boost of speed along the top. The issue with low friction mode is now I know it's going to be fast over the other hills, but let's see just how fast it is. We have enough speed to get to the drop. That's good. Nice bit of airtime over this hill. A little speed, but not bad along there, and I think the speed over this hill is going to be fine. And honestly, I like that a lot better. I think it's going to be much more intense going on the way out, but not unbearable. The next thing I want to do, because now that we don't need to bank the track for a helix, let's just get rid of the extra space. This gives employees more space to work with down here, and we can even update this with a little more asphalt. But I like the way that turned out. We got a little straight section before the drop, and I just think this works a little better for our pre-drop section. And honestly, I think it looks a little nicer too. So now we can move along here, and we'll just keep coming along. And I think we could maybe even do another camelback. We have quite a few at this point, so let's just see here. Well, okay, gotta put it into test mode first, I suppose. I just want to see what the speed is like. Now, I don't love having all these camelbacks at the same height. Even if the ride has the speed to make it, it just isn't completely realistic. Normally they would have a little bit less height as the ride goes on. The height of those hills get a little smaller, but we can't get too much smaller because then that would be a little less realistic too. But I think it definitely will have enough speed here. But I think what we can do, and I think what'll work, is let's get rid of this little section. And let's put a banked piece of track in here, I think. Yeah. Let's bank this track and come out at a 45-degree angle. And then let's do another camelback. And we could go full height like before. And that looks pretty nice too. But because we're on the diagonal, the profile of the camelbacks is less aggressive. So we could even have a lower one, and you'll notice this curve here is much shallower than this one. So we could kind of have like a speed hill along here, which honestly I think looks kind of cool. And then maybe we'll come into another curve along here. So that's the first thing we're going to try, and we'll just see how that looks. And, alright, there's the curve. And I think that would be a good airtime moment. The only thing I don't love about doing these kinds of speed hills is they're very, like, you can tell they would be, like, flow ejectory. Like, the angle is sharpest on either end. So you get a pop of ejector into, like, a floater section, and then a little more ejector airtime at the end. But that's not the end of the world. That's a limitation of the game. So we can imagine that away or whatever. But one more thing I want to try, and kind of what I had in mind, is maybe doing something a little more in line with like a CCI coaster. that CCI, if you don't know, is a roller coaster manufacturer that no longer exists. But maybe we'll do kind of an elevated turnaround like this. Something similar to like Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure, which is an awesome ride. So, something like this is kind of what I had in mind. This is not exactly like Shivering Timbers, but maybe like we go into a sort of a pop of airtime here. Something along these lines. I don't know. That feels a little too funky for my taste, though, to be honest. But let's just have a look, just to see how it feels with the train going through it. So you come up here into your little sweeping turn. Yeah, I think it doesn't not work, but I'm not sure I'm sold on it right now, right yet. I don't know. So we'll keep trying some stuff. Maybe we'll just try this upward turn like that. I can already tell I don't really like this one though. Let's go back to our turn into the Flowjector speed hill. Like so. And I think that'll do. And then what I kind of want to do here is have just, I think, a low to the ground section. I want to be mindful of this space because we definitely want to, reserve as much space as we can for additional attractions or sections of the park. And I don't really want to bring this coaster outside of its, like the boundaries of its midway. But maybe we'll come along like this. Large helix. Oops, I don't want to go down yet. I think like something like figure 80 would be cool, but I just don't think we have the space to work with that. Maybe we can try going in the other direction here. Maybe do something like this. Heck, maybe we just keep building the helix upward. I don't know. We'll see how that looks. But one thing is, now that we're in low friction mode, we also just have a lot more speed to work with, and the ride does not have to end as soon. So that is something worth considering. And yeah, redesigning this around the parameters of the midway now is kind of an interesting challenge too, because now we have this space to work with as well, which could be like an extra ride or something, but we'll see what we can come up with first with this coaster. We could even go up and do another hill. Oops. And kind of do a turnaround up here, and that gives us more space along here to work with as well. Maybe now is where we can come down. Bank. Ooh. Here we go. Maybe we're onto something here. Maybe we go kind of a GCI with it. I'm not sure I'm sold on the intensity, but I do kind of like that turn. But we do have a lot of speed, so let's go upward with this large helix. Now we have this turn and more space for that. Oh yeah. Okay, now we really have space to work with down here. But we also have speed, and like I said, I don't just want to end the ride immediately. So let's come into a large upwards helix here. And we'll just come through here. We'll have a little straight track, I think. But I don't like how that gets rid of the supports up here on this track. Maybe we go into a downwards helix. Yeah, that'll work. And then we can have our little straight track. I still want to make sure I leave space in this area as well. But maybe we can come along like this. Large helix, maybe? No, that's going to get rid of our supports. Maybe we can do this. That's not quite going to work. Let's come out a little bit further. Do large helix up. Da-da-da. Huh? Okay, we would need a little more space to do that. And I don't want to come back up to the full height of the other track there. So we'll keep working on this. Because I like the idea of coming along here, but we just don't have the height for that yet. But maybe we can do this. Large helix into small helix. Maybe. No, large helix up into, we'll do small helix down. And then we'll do this. Okay, that's not going to work. It's all about trial and error sometimes. And you know what? So I like this helix here and everything. But I also kind of think I want like a bunny hill finale, like on Magnum XL or something. So maybe we try reworking this. And we'll go from the ending here or something. What kind of space do we have under here? Probably not a lot. Yeah, I'd rather not do that. Let's just try all of our options, I suppose. I don't know. Well, we have a start there, anyhow. Maybe we go right into a small, oops, not down, upward helix. That's not going to work quite right with the supports. There. That is a downward helix, technically. And that might even be how we had it before. Oh, no, not quite, but maybe we come out like this. Oh yeah, and that'll kind of hug closely right along here. Huh. Interesting challenges for sure. We'll keep this for now, because that'll fill out this space. And let's just fix our terrain as well. Okay. So now we kind of have to get where we want to go. Okay, I think I'm going to get rid of this helix. And we're going to experiment. We'll put a little diagonal straight track in there. That's always kind of fun. And I think we're just going to focus on more bunny hills and airtime for this final section. I think this will work. Are we testing? Yes. I want to get the coaster closer so I can get a better idea of the speed we have to work with as well. Okay. We do have plenty of speed. Let's see how high we can get. That's a fair amount of airtime, but I think we can do better. And we're working on the diagonal right now, so we can take our airtime hills with a little more speed. Let's do this. Come up a little bit. That works. We'll see if we like how it goes with the speed. Let's go up like this. Okay. Little pop there. That's very aggressive. But it is the end of the ride. But I still want this ride to have a kind of a classic feel to it. Not anything too whippy. So I think we'll try something else here. We could try a little more straight track in here. Oops. Like that. Okay. I think this is going to work. Do another pop of airtime. And I think we might just have to take the loss here with the lack of supports. This is not as airtimey of a finale as I would have liked. But and that is a lot of speed coming into the end there. We could do a trim brake. Let's get rid of the helix now. We do have this space to work with, but I don't think that's really going to work well, so I'm not worried about that. Ooh, large helix? Oh, not quite enough space. But if we did... Okay, idea time. Down one more. And do a left turn. Large helix, small helix, pop of airtime, into brake run. Let's see. I think it's going to work. But let's find out. Alright, we know how the first half flows. Let's look at this entire second half, though, as one big thing. In fact, we even have room for another little bunny hill right in there if we want to try it. Boom. Pop of airtime. Honestly, nice and intense. I kind of like that. Let's just delete the bushes under... Oh, we can't do that yet. Okay. Do we have... I don't think we really have much in the way of straight track, except for this diagonal bit. So we could make a pop of airtime here. Let's do it like this, actually. Wait, one... Oh yeah, we don't quite have the space to work with to go any higher than that. Yes. I think that's going to be... I can just tell that's going to be way too aggressive, so we're going to leave it as a straight track. But we can put a photo opportunity in here. Let's go one further with it. There. And we can even put a trim brake right in there. I think that will work well in that spot. So, are there any more improvements we can make here? Yes. I don't really like this little pop of sideways airtime. It's just not very traditional, I guess. So we're going to bring this up one more. And we're going to reprofile this turn. Yeah. I think that'll do. I'm not in love with that now, but maybe we can do this. Up. Da, da, da. I think that works. We'll take a look at it. We can even try this. Up like so. Oh yeah. Uh-oh. Wrong button. Wrong button. Okay. Or maybe we'll just leave it straight track. But I want to do this profiling a little differently, like that. Okay. We could even do our trim brake right up here, just so this transition isn't too aggressive. I think that'll work a little better. And it'll carry a little more speed to the end of the layout that way. Okay. Let's do one final test, but I think this is going to work. Here it comes. Straight track. Yeah. And then this airtime will be a little more floatery. It's really this pop of airtime. I don't want to be too intense. But I think that works. And I think that's a nice length for the layout. I like that we get a couple little wraps around this turnaround. And we keep it concise on a nice compact footprint. Honestly, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think this is a better layout than what we had. And now, of course, we have all of this space to work with. I'll probably do some warehouses or something out here, because this is on the edge of the parking lot and the property and everything. And I think that'll work nicely in that spot. And if we wanted to do a hotel, I'm not 100% certain we would, but we ought to be able to find a better spot. You know, I know we're going to do a water park in this area, and the way I always envisioned it was having, you know, giving the water park a separate sort of pavilion along here, but we could also always do like a hotel in this spot, and then just do the water park kind of connected to the park from the inside, like a lot of the Cedar Fair parks have it, say Valley Fair, for example. But I think we'll figure that out at a later time. I don't really know what my time is looking like on this episode. Let's see, we're at 30 minutes, and it's going to be about 10 minutes, give or take, of time lapse. So I think I'm going to leave this episode here, just so it doesn't get too long. But yeah, here's a good example of how it's okay to change rides as time goes on to better fit the needs of your park. And let's actually, while we're at it, I know this is probably going to be the thumbnail or something, but let's just get a nice view of how this changes the sightline of our midway. So yeah, already you can see this coaster down there, and now when people are walking down the midway, they'll see the trains go by and stuff. And it just wraps up this midway very nicely. I love this hill back here. It just ties everything in so much better. And even right along in here, that low turn. Let's look at it from the queue line. It's all very nice. There it comes. So let's watch this new section here. Ah, stupid camera. Where are you? I think we missed that entire hill, yeah. That just brings it in so much better to this area, and it makes the whole coaster, you know, I think now calling it the Garden Flyer Midway, as we kind of dubbed it in the last episode, because this coaster, of course, is called Garden Flyer, it just wraps it up so nicely. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. At some point we may do more foliage in here, but I don't think it's necessary. But yeah, that's that. Okay, I'm gonna leave it here. I will see you guys in the next one.